So Grinding Gear Games has released an absolute banger of a patch, including respecking Ascendancy classes, something people have been asking for a very long time, Atlas bookmarks, new stash tab affinities, something that I'm extremely excited about, changes to charms as totems, as well as many other improvements and bug fixes. So let's go straight through them and go over what we think are the best changes. So for respecking Ascendancy classes, redoing an Ascendancy trial now allows you to respec which Ascendancy class you have chosen at the Ascension device, but only if the trial would grant you the number of points you already have. So you have to be able to do, whatever level of Ascendancy you're at to be able to respec. So that is important to know. We're not going to go through the rest of the Ascendancy changes because they're not too important. Moving on to the charms changes. Belts level 30 and above now have implicit modifiers with 1 to 2 charm slots, while belts level 60 and above now have implicit modifiers with 1 to 3 charm slots. This only affects new belts found after this patch has been deployed, so the new belts are definitely going to be worth way more than the old belts because they just have an implicit modifier with extra charm slots. So definitely huge. Right before this update was going out, golden charms were being sold for, or really all being bought up. I got absolutely spammed for my golden charm that I had selling for 1 exalt. And it's because now you can have golden charms like for not a big deal because pretty much any meta belts can have 3 charm slots easily. So the explicit modifiers for additional charm slots on belts can no longer roll. This is actually a buff to crafting belts, as it'll be pretty easy to craft belts that have all of the modifiers that you want. There's still be some that aren't the best, but really great belts are going to be absolutely insane now. So next it says the Xerxes Genesis and Ingenuity unique belt no longer have additional charm slot modifiers, though existing versions of these items are not affected. So that's because it's not in the explicit thing. I'm not sure whether that will change how many charm slots these belts have. I don't know if it'll become like, if it's just the implicit. It sounds like it's just the implicit, so they won't have like additional charm slots modifiers. So we'll see how that is. It might be a nerf to them. I don't know. The Bidjaborn has intentionally kept its additional charm slots for now, as in the future they'll be expanding the maximum possible charm slots to 6. So you'll be able to have an insane number of charms. That's absolutely nuts. They also massively increase the values on prefixes that restore life mana or grant guard when charms are used. You can update existing items to the new values with a divine orb. So that's super interesting, especially restoring the life and guard. That can be really helpful for staying alive. Charms just got a huge buff. I think these are really great changes, good changes to the belts as well, allowing you to have those extra charms. And then all charms with the golden charm have had their maximum charges halved and their charges per use halved, making them refill more quickly. And the base duration of the stone charm has been increased from 2.5 seconds to 3 seconds. So those are all the charm changes. Really, really great changes. Great to see. And I think it's just going to feel way better. They're going to have more of a point in the game. There's a reason to pick them up now, especially if you're trying to get the good values on restoring life, mana, or guard. So yeah, so great changes and good to see. Moving on to the stash tab affinities. These are things that people have been asking for a while now. We have affinities for socketables, fragments, breach, expedition, and ritual. Personally, having the breach, expedition, and ritual, as well as fragments, which includes tablets and trial keys, absolutely insane. Gonna make life so much easier when depositing stuff into our stash. So great to see that change. Moving on to Atlas bookmarks, they added the ability to bookmark locations on your Atlas to find them easily later. Right-clicking a node will allow you to create a bookmark by picking an icon and optionally adding a label you can type in. You can have up to 16 bookmarks at a time. They will appear as icons around the outside of the screen with a direction allowing you to scroll to them easily, or you can click on them to instantly take you there. So that's just like where you can click on your home button and that'll take you to where you started, or you can click on your little person icon and that will take you to the current map that you're at. You can also view a list of bookmarks under the legend and click them to go there. This will be extremely helpful to, move around the Atlas, especially once you've done a ton of maps. It takes forever to get to different places. So a really, really great change to add the Atlas bookmarks. So moving to endgame changes, this is absolutely insane. They made it so that Pinnacle bosses now have unlimited respawn attempts at difficulty 0. This means that you can practice Pinnacle bosses now. You can go to difficulty 0 and just practice them over and over and over again until you get them down. I think this is a perfect change. It really makes it so that you're able to learn the boss now, sort of like Dark Souls, with no cost. But then, it's only a difficulty 0, so it doesn't make it it's not too OP. It's just really, really, really great change. And I'm not even sure that's something that people were asking for, but I'm really glad that they added that. I know some people are asking for some way to learn the bosses without it being too expensive. But yeah, great change there for sure. Tower and hideout maps now have a higher minimum number of rare monsters that can spawn. The final rare monster defeated in tower and hideout maps will now drop a map of the same tier you are running. As long as you have enough waystone chance, defeating the final rare monster in tower maps is still not required to complete a tower map. This is nice, you know, right now when you were defeating these maps, you wouldn't get an extra map, which can be sort of annoying for map sustain. I didn't find it too rough, but it's definitely a nice change, a quality of life change. They added UI tracking for rare and unique monsters in unique maps, tower maps, and hideout maps. I have been having issues with like some unique monsters not being picked up in the UI, so I hope that fixes that. Moving on to crafting changes, they said as each new rune tier is unlocked, we are removing the lower runes from the drop pool. This is to stop you from getting spammed with lesser runes at high levels. Great change, just standard quality of life, really good to see. Lesser runes no longer drop past level 31. Medium runes no longer drop past level 52. Overall, past level 52, you will now drop more greater runes than currently, but lesser runes and runes will no longer drop. That's probably it's probably the same drop rate for runes overall, you just get more of the greater ones. Rogue Exiles will always have the appropriate tier runes socketed in dropped items relative to their item levels. Okay, this is like all these changes are great, but let's just do a quick aside. They need to buff the loot that Rogue Exiles have. I mean, whenever I kill a Rogue Exile, I swear like half the stuff that I kill them with is magic items. And when you're at like level 90, if the Rogue Exile is also, you know, in his 80s, if it was like actually, you know, realistic, they're going to have all rare items and maybe a couple uniques. They can buff Rogue Exiles without making them too OP. Even if you're fully spec'd into it, they need a buff. Their loot needs to be better. It needs to be exciting when you run into them. They need to be stronger, and you know, it needs to be exciting, a challenge. You kill them and then you get hella good loot that you can sell on the market. Or for soul stuff found, you know, you can use yourself. But Rogue Exiles that need to be buffed. 100% that should be in like the next patch. Okay, going back to crafting changes, scepters can now have sockets, and they've added a new set of talisman modifiers for scepters to allow upgrades to your minions at mid to late game. Totem changes. All totem skills now start gaining elemental resistances and chaos resistance, scaling up with skill level from around gem level 13. At gem level 20, they have plus 75% to all elemental resistances and plus 35% to chaos resistance. The Ironwood support now also grants totems summoned by support skills plus 10% to all maximum elemental resistance. To be completely honest, I haven't really used totems that much, so I can't really comment on this. But yeah, those are the changes for totems. Warriors, please, you know, feel free to comment below whether that's good changes, what it is. I don't know anything about totems. Moving on from there, light stun changes. They moderately reduce the capacity for monsters to light stun you, especially towards cruel and endgame, by lowering the amount of stun damage they deal and increasing the minimum they must deal to light stun you. Additionally, elemental, chaos, and ranged stun damage has been penalized even further, so you're less likely to get stunned by random stray projectiles and other things of the sort. These changes don't affect light stuns dealt by players. They've added a cluster to the passive skill tree near Chaos Inoculation that allows you to invest into a heavy amount of stun and ailment threshold based on your energy shield. They will be adding more stun mitigation later on the tree, notably in the dexterous section. This is a great change. It was super annoying to be light stunned by just like, you know, a random white mob. It really breaks up the flow of, you know, just going through maps and killing things. So great change there. I do think it's a little bit weird that first they nerf, you know, the capacity for monsters to light stun, and then they add clusters on the passive skill tree, you know, to allow you to invest in a heavy amount of stun and ailment threshold. But if they just nerfed it, then you shouldn't need the stun and ailment threshold. So I mean, maybe you still do, but it seemed, I don't know. It's sort of confusing that they added both of them. I guess it's so that you never get stunned, but there's probably, like, people will probably never, ever take those clusters because it's not worth it because they just nerfed it. So, good first change, confusing second change. I think overall, though, it's really good. Moving on to player changes, so Shard Scavenger, in addition to its current effects, now also restores 1 cooldown use for all of your grenades and grants a buff for 2 seconds that prevents your crossbow attacks from consuming bolts. Shockwave Totem's base attack time is now 1.5 seconds, previously 3 seconds. Shockwave Totem Slam now deals 96 to 211% of attack damage at gems level 3 to 20, previously 169 to 369%, while Jagged Ground Eruption damage is unchanged. Again, I don't know much about totems, so I can't really talk on it. Frozen Locust can now be used while other skills to interrupt what you're doing, similarly to Dodge Roll. Great. You will now shield bash if you release Raise Shield after blocking hit from a faraway attacker if there is a different enemy in shield bash range. That's cool. Stormlance is now able to be supported by ground effect related supports. Good change there. Raise Shield is now able to be supported by concentrated effect. Fire exposure, lightning exposure supports have had their wording adjusted to make it clear their effects apply to any target, not just enemies. This is not a functional change, just a clarification of wording. Whirlwind Lance and Whirlwind Keyword Hover now clarify that Whirlwind Lance and the Whirlwind Keyword Hover now clarify that the Whirlwind's collapse damage deals melee damage. They improve the visual effects of arc explosions hitting a shocked enemy, and Glacial Lance is now able to chain off terrain. I haven't used Glacial Lance too much, but I did hear that its damage was not amazing. Moving on from there, they have improvements and other changes. They added an equip gem section to the gem cutting interface to make leveling up cross-class skill gems more convenient. They added rarity borders to items available to purchase from vendors. Woohoo! Great change there. Now you don't have to search it up, put it into your regex anymore. You can just look at what the different rarities are. Really great change there. The Greater Rune of Tithing now provides 1 to 100 lightning thorns damage when socketed into armor, so just making those thorns build more viable. The attribute runes now have a more appropriate gold value to vendors and can be reforged into higher tiers. Breach hands can now drop splinters at all levels. Good change, a little buff to breach, especially at lower levels. This amount starts low and increases with area levels, similar to splinter drops from monsters. Shrines are now easier to click on. Monster changes. Some endgame monsters can no longer interrupt their attacks if you move too far out of range during the attack to relentlessly chase you. Zarok the Temporal no longer aggressively targets player minions if they are present. The Immured Fury is now less likely to target minions, and their ground effects should now more reliably be removed after death. Azek Brutes, Azek Maulers, Azek Stalkers, and Undead Valguards have had their frequencies that they use their skills, such as ground slams, reduced and cooldowns increased. They adjusted the behaviors of 180-degree cleave skills used by Geonor, the Putrid Wolf, to prevent them using the skill multiple times sequentially. That actually did happen to me the last time. I've been leveling a ranger to following Fubgun's guide for his Deadeye Spear build. And when I was going through Act 1, I got cleaved by the Putrid Wolf. I almost never died to Geonor anymore, but I got absolutely decimated by the dude in Cruel. Just because he did 2 180 cleaves in a row, and I definitely just was not expecting it at all. So anyways, the composition of monster packs in Jaquani's Sanctum, Agarat, and Utsal have been adjusted to reduce the amount of ranged skills being hurled at players in these areas. They adjusted the frequency and damage of Ice Shard Spiral Volleys from Shrines. They adjusted the behavior of Venomous Crabs. They adjusted a bunch of damage and stuff. We don't have to go through all of that. And then they have a lot of bug fixes. I don't think I'm going to read through all of these. If you really want to, I'll have the patch notes linked below so you can go look at them yourself. But I don't think there's really anything, too important to talk about. Unique charms can now be chanced. But yeah, it's just a lot of random bugs. So anyways, those are the changes. They're looking really, really good. I think one of the best patch notes. They've been releasing one banger after another, but this one especially is super amazing. The servers just went down, so they should be up soon, and it theoretically should include this update. So by the time you're watching this video, the update should be live. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it helpful. If you want more videos like this in the future, feel free to hit the like button. If you have any suggestions on how I can improve my Path of Exile 2 content, feel free to let me know. I'm sort of new to the space, but I'm loving the game. I played the first season for about 2 hours, or 200 hours, excuse me, and I'm definitely logging a bunch more for this season. So anyways, I'll have more guides and stuff coming out in the future, and I'll cover any news. But if you're interested in that kind of stuff, feel free to subscribe. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.